Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Plasma Punisher. And yes, the PP returns. Damage on the projectile has been decreased from 100 to 0, but they gave the damage explosion an increase from 150 to 225. For those of you who don't know, you're probably like, oh, but Gundam Boy, they touched the PP! This is actually a good thing, because the projectile damage didn't ever hit the enemy. It usually blew up before it actually did anything. It had a lot of ghost damage that just wasn't doing anything. Which is really confusing, because I don't know how you'd mess that up for designing a weapon like this, but it's okay, my PP explodes. So it started at 250 damage, and then it jumped down to 225. So overall, the weapon has 225 explosive damage, and no ballistic damage. Pretty comical. So let's take a look at its customization. So looking at the weapon's actual customization, you can see that it's pretty bare bones, and let me just say, it is very evil of them to put the iron sight at the end. Overall, you're not going to be using the sights on this weapon too much, because the projectile up at close range, sure, will line up with your next shot, but when you start aiming at longer targets, it drops with more weight than my fat cat. So honestly, using the sights in general for this weapon is pretty pointless, unless you're trying to shoot something up close, but even then I wouldn't recommend it. But the nice thing about the plasma being so weighty means you can shoot it like a grenade launcher, or you can confuse the Crescent Overseers on why they're receiving friendly fire. And since it's important to note that this is an explosive weapon, it's also good to know where it can do its damage. Basically, what you need to know while using this weapon is that the closer it is to where the explosion starts, the most damage that it will deal, and the more damage fall off towards the edge. But that's fine with me because the inner radius is about 2.3 meters wide, and its outer radius is 3 meters. Another thing we should keep in mind is that this weapon is a stagger god, being able to push a majority of enemies around like a fat kid going to the ice cream truck. There's only a few enemies that can withstand the power of this gun. Let's start with the bots first, as they love my PP. All I have to say against one automaton, it feels like it's pretty wasteful to fire. I feel like I could just do it with a handgun. But in situations where the automatons have still yet to drop their troopers, it's pretty funny to pop them before they land. But yes, the PP is too much for the automaton trooper. And going up against enemies like the Berserker who can tank more than one shot, it's pretty comical because it's just a complete bullet fest. And with how punishing the plasma is on this weapon, it means you could just juggle groups of enemies that are too close to each other. And it takes only around 4 shots to kill a Berserker. And it sounds like a lot, but when you consider that they can't even move an inch to hit you, I think it's pretty damn worth it. Even going up against something like a Devastator, they also get taken down in at least 4 shots. Again, they don't get a say on whether they get to hit you or not. It's always your turn. Rocket devs, you can't destroy their rocket pods, but it doesn't matter because they also face Juggle City. And sure, heavy devs have that shield that blocks projectile damage, but this weapon's all explosive, which means it goes right through it. It's one of those weapons where it feels weird to use it on small groups of enemies, but once you get into those firefights, oh boy, does this weapon perform. And if the Incineration Core ever comes back around, you have a perfect weapon to stop the shotgun dev from eviscerating you. But once those Devastators see you, it's Concussive City. What's this? You're, not subscribed? Only 34.1% of you guys are? Man, that's a lot of people who aren't subscribed. You should subscribe right now! Moving on to the bug front, I'll have to say, I was very concerned in the past for this weapon. As I earlier stated, this gun wasn't even capable of one-shotting a hunter. Because if you didn't know, on challenging difficulty and up, it goes up to 160 health. And since the Plasma Punisher didn't actually hit the enemy with the projectile damage, it means it was only doing 150 damage, just barely missing the mark for one-shotting. Oh, and you're probably wondering why we're staring at the hunters still. Because it took 1 year for them to make this update. Hope you weren't looking forward to that stratagem launcher, guys. We're not getting that until year 5. So it means you can finally kill hunters in at least one shot. Don't worry, I tested at a very safe distance. Dinner. But at least the PP is now capable of destroying enemies on the lesser chaff end with no problem. Going up against something like the Hive Guard, it takes only around 3 shots to kill them. Going up against the Warrior, now these days, it only takes 2 shots to put them down. And you can make them fly. And because of how hard it hits these enemies, if a wall of Shriekers are flying at you, you can deflect them all with the explosion. And you're lucky, because if you're going up against something like the Spewers, you can blow them up in 3 shots. And if you can catch them in their groups, it means you'll be setting off a chain reaction of acid that blow up all the enemies in the area. They're like walking red barrels for you to shoot. Going up against something like the Brood Commanders, though, is where I see this gun struggles a bit more than in the others. Because it takes around 5 shots to kill a Brood Commander, which would take a fair amount of commitment if you're going up against a shit ton of Brood Commanders. Hey, what the fuck? You're not on the Rupture Strain. What are you doing here? Yep, get back down there. And even if the Brood Commander spams a bunch of warriors, as long as you have your Plasma Punisher loaded, you can take down all the units they throw at you. I'll have to say, the bug front likes to swarm you a lot, and the Plasma Punisher is perfect for answering those swarms. Sure, it sucks ass at shooting flying units when they're in motion, but that's a skill issue. If it's going up against the Gloom Bugs, which are just reskins, and the Predator Strain, or even against the Rupture Strain, this gun is gonna do perfectly damn good on all of them. Predator Stalker comes over to try and touch you. Plasma Punisher staggers. Bugs hiding underneath the ground. Well, it's explosive. It digs them right up. And Gloom Bugs performs the same. They're the same enemy. They just Add fog. Pretty damn good weapon on the bug front. So, moving on to the Illuminate, we're going to take a look at the vote list real quickly, because across the 3 versions of them, the light, medium, and the heavy, the light variant of vote list dies in 1 shot. Here we have the heavy version of the vote list strolling on up, but if you shoot him, it actually takes a few seconds for him to die after he gets hit. It did confuse me for a second, because I thought it was going to take at least 2 shots to kill him, but he actually fell over and died a second after. And here's a perfect comparison, as on the left, that's a light vote list, and on the right, it's a medium, and as you can see, he died a second after. Yippee! Weird-ass enemies. So even if you do hit the heavy vote list, don't spend another shot on him, he's going to die shortly after from bleeding out. But not the light vote list, he dies. I cast pee-pee! But if paired with something like an AoE effect, you can ignore that and they will all die in 1 shot anyways. But even without the extra gas, this weapon is perfect for taking out those groups of vote lists coming after you. And that stagger is great for going up against overseers in close quarters, as it only takes 3 shots to put them out of their misery. And the elevated overseers only take 2 shots to die because they were nerfed. Facing off with something like a flesh mob, you could actually take it down within a mag. It's a lot of commitment if you're going to use it to kill flesh mobs, but it is fully capable of doing it. And it's not the elevated overseers or the vote list that you should be worried about. You should be worried about watchers, because it does take 3 shots to take them down, which can catch you off guard if it's moving in weird directions or if your aim is bad. And don't use the Plasma Punisher to destroy Illuminate ship shields, as that motherfucker takes too much ammo. So let's take a look at some of the stratagems I personally like using with the weapon. So first off, we have stratagems like Supply Pack, which is a very obvious answer, since you can mag dump and fire as much ammo as you want without worrying about running out of ammo anytime soon. But that's not a big surprise. Supply Pack is useful for a lot of reasons. If ammo's not of a concern to you, then Hover Pack is also a good option for getting the high ground so that you can better center your shots into groups. Being higher up on the terrain also allows you to fire your PP at further ranges without having to look straight up at the sky. And if you're accident prone, you can use the Shield Generator Pack to at least deflect 1 shot. Perfect for when you're looking at model kits on P Bandai and you don't expect an enemy to be right next to you. You can literally shoot the ground point blank and survive. And for swarming situations, it's a perfect counter to make sure you can still use your Punisher for at least 1 shot before they jump you. But the Plasma Punisher is so general in its utility that it can really fit most loadouts that you have in mind. Overall, I'd have to say on every front, the Plasma Punisher is a pretty damn good utility weapon to bring wherever you need it. Because against the most common enemies that you'll be facing off against, the Plasma Punisher could probably stagger it. And it makes for a perfect team play option as long as you don't shoot your teammates, because you can hit multiple targets in the area, and even if you don't finish them off, you're actively making them weaker for other teammates to kill. But say you don't have friends or you split up from your group, the Plasma Punisher still works perfectly fine in a solo setting. I'd have to say one of the weaker things about this weapon is the fact that it lacks customization. Honestly, I'm not surprised. I don't even know why they gave it a scope to begin with. The projectile drops as soon as it fires past 50 meters. Come on. And then they put the iron sights at the end! To be honest, the weapon's so strong that it sits up there right next to things like Purifier and Eruptor. It's just so much power behind each shot now. And since the weapon is explosive, it means it ignores durable damage, making it the most consistent weapon for killing things. Doesn't matter if you hit his ass or his face, you're still penetrating his main health pool and killing it that way. There's no doubt in my mind that this gun is definitely now up there with the meta. Gun that can fight them all? How dare they? That's it, create a new automaton front. The Fog Brigade! I think the only way this gun could be irrelevant is if they made a faction that was immune to explosives. Which I doubt they do, right? But that is the end of my video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the Gundam boy get up there with the big leagues. Alright, I will see you guys later. Subscribe, please. Please. Oh.